Hello everyone, before we get into the video, we're going to show a new Dark Souls 3 trailer, then we're going to dissect it, so let's enjoy it first.
Unkindled one. If you are like us, another forlorn soul, with no place to call your own, then show my lady flame. The ashes have come at last.
Boom.
Yes, we finally have news on the Dark Souls 3 first expansion, Ashes of Ariandel.
So, by the way, who are we?
Well, I am Mr. Darkmoon Ezio of Super Fun People.
My name is AP, and we're going to be breaking down this trailer a little bit. I am by no means an expert. I'm Ezio's our resident Dark Souls expert, and
none of our podcast co-hosts are very much Dark Soulsy, so we're taking this show ourselves.
yeah, buddy. All right, so how do you want to start?
I think we should just start at the beginning of the video, and that is that, well, it's very snowy.
Yeah, very reminiscent
Now-
of Rise of Iron.
Very much so. But dang, well, that's another video for another day.
Yeah.
But yeah, this part in particular, that part was confusing because I mean that could be anything. It wasn't until later on in the trailer, I'll just get to it now, but I wanted to point out that actually, if you would find that bit where our little knight there is on a bridge, because that bit is pretty significant.
Okay.
Right about there, yeah.
So what's happening here?
Right there, if you're a Dark Souls veteran, looks very familiar, doesn't it?
I am just gonna say, what?
Well, for the Dark Souls 1 players, this area right here is very reminiscent of when you enter the painted world of Aramaeus.
See, the bridge
Because-
makes sense, but it's just the I don't remember there being a building right there.
Well, there was a castle there in the painted world in Dark Souls 1, but I will admit the castle does look a bit different, making me think that this is either a different variation of it, or maybe a different area, or maybe the painted world has changed since then.
Which would it would fit to reason. I mean, when you revisit Anor Londo in Dark Souls 3, it definitely has some of the landmarks, but it everything looks like it's been rearranged a little bit.
Yeah, it looks like it's been rearranged, changed, worn down, everything you want to put into that description.
So what are some of the theories here?
One of the big theories is if you want to... Actually, you don't have to skip it. But big boss that's near the end of the trailer. We'll show you that in a little bit. But the big boss with the black clothes, it's been very, very, very heavily theoried that is Velka, the goddess of sin.
Hello.
Yeah, that. That is everyone's theory that's Velka. If you don't know who Velka is, she's been kind of a part of the Dark Souls lore for a long time. All the way back in Dark Souls 1, you might remember her being connected to the crow that picks up your undead in the Undead Asylum at the beginning of the game.
Now, connected how? Because I played through Dark Souls 1 a couple times, played through Dark Souls 3, New Game Plus, but I've already mentioned this to you. I don't remember a lot of the names of the bosses. I just kind of enjoy the game.
Yeah, I gotcha.
So in terms of the lore, how is the crow connected to Velka, and who exactly is Velka?
Well, Velka is, like I said before, the goddess of sin. If you've ever delved into the sin system in the game, which is when you get points deducted whenever you kill another player in like PvP, and you go to a NPC to reduce them, that's always keyed into Velka. But she's usually hidden kind of deep within the lore and everything, so it's not too surprising if you don't know who she really is. How she's connected to the crow is that, well, Velka is kind of connected to crows. That's kind of... Okay, you know how in, like, normal religion and everything, in our world, a lot of gods and yada yada are connected to animals and such?
Sure.
Same principle here. Velka and crows kind of go hand in hand, and I believe in one case she's called one of the crows of Londor.
Okay.
Which, that's a whole nother theory in general, and what I think the other DLC will be. But, like I said, Velka is the goddess of sin, and I'm not 100% certain on this, but I believe she's one of the originators of the Dark Moons, the Blazes of Dark Moon.
She's not a boss you fight in the game.
The gameplay, well, not in the original games or anything, but in this DLC, I'm thinking yes, because in a gameplay clip we get a little bit later, it shows her bashing us with a giant, what everyone's saying looks like a Lord vessel.
Oh, and she's dumping the lava?
Yep, it's a little bit later on in the trailer, not too far from here, I believe. Right about there.
Boom, and dump.
Yep. Now, a lot of people are saying that looks like a Lord vessel, and if you'll back up and pause it when she's bashing that poor knight in the head with it, so that we can get a better look at it. Yeah, right there. Okay, I've seen a Lord vessel, and I remember from Dark Souls 1, and while it has the same basic shape, this doesn't have the same basic size or curvature of a Lord vessel. So, it may be connected to it, but I don't think this is a Lord vessel. So I had to debunk that, people, but, well, you're going to get debunked a few times, because there's a couple other theories that I'm going to point out. But anyway, let's go back in the trailer, because we kind of skipped ahead on that one.
Okay.
Don't want to lose track.
Where to?
Anyway, yeah, just about there. Let it play a little bit so we can see our next bit to talk about.
Just tell me when to stop.
But, yeah, so that we're not going completely silent. Yeah, Velka is a pretty big deal that everyone's talking about. Okay, I don't know if you guys can hear it on his screen, but just remember... Okay, pause it here. Well, you don't have to go back. Don't worry about it. But, this line of dialogue that was in the trailer kind of cemented it for me that this is the Painted World, because the narrator says something about forlorn souls, which is used to describe the Corvian enemies that are in Dark Souls 3. And if you read the item descriptions of their weapons and such, it talks about them being unwanted creatures, which is also another thing to the Painted World, where unwanted things are kept. And it's also very heavily implied that the Corvian creatures are connected to the Painted World, which is why I think that kind of cements that we're going back to the Painted World. Okay.
And isn't that the figure we see on the screen, isn't she kind of the boss of the Painted World that you have the option to fight or to leave?
If you're talking about Priscilla, then no, that is not her.
Okay.
Well, at the very least, I don't believe it's her. She doesn't have the same physical characteristics. Well, I don't see the tail that Priscilla had, and while I can't tell if she has white hair because she has the hood on, she doesn't seem to be of the same. I don't know. It doesn't appear to be Priscilla, so I'm gonna go ahead and say no.
Okay.
Go ahead and play the video a little bit. I don't know actually who that is. We'll just have to see. Go ahead and pause it here. This scene's actually kind of interesting. We see who we assume to be Velka here again.
Brewing a big
and she's hit. Yep, with the big pot of soup, and she's hitting herself with the what you would think is a. I don't have the word for it. It's you see it all the time whenever you see like a movie or something with slaves, and you see the slave owners hitting them with it.
Whip.
It's kind of. Here's the thing. That was the first one that came to mind, but it's a different design, so it has a different name. I can't remember what it is. We'll just go with whip. We'll just go with whip, I guess. But yeah, she's hitting herself with it, so I have no idea what this scene. I'm gonna assume that this is the cutscene that plays when you enter the room. That's my assumption. I'm not sure about what's going on here.
Would they really spoil that?
They did something similar to this with the Bloodborne DLC. They showed off the first boss of the Bloodborne DLC. They showed off a little bit of the cutscene and a little bit of the fight. As a little bit of a side note, they also played his battle theme, which is what I'm assuming we're listening to throughout this trailer is a battle theme of one of the bosses.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I just want to point that out. I'm assuming this is probably the intro cutscene to this boss fight.
Okay.
It's the same typical build and everything of it.
Are those weapons called flares?
This... I don't know. This, I was at first thinking was a player with a new gesture or something, but the outfit he's wearing is similar to what a character later on in this trailer is wearing. So I don't think it's another... I don't think it's a... Wait.
I think it's an NPC.
Okay, I do think... I'm looking at the area a little bit closer now, and that looks like the Cathedral of the Deep.
It really does. The door off to the right. I was actually thinking that when we were first looking at Velka stirring her pot of soup, it kind of looked like the similar aesthetic.
A lot of people are actually talking about how that area might be similar to some of the current areas, like the Twin Prince's boss room, like the Cathedral of the Deep. I actually, after seeing this trailer and reading those, loaded up Dark Souls 3 and went into those areas to see if I could find that. I've confirmed that the area that Velka is in is not in the current game.
Okay.
But this here looks suspiciously like the bonfire room, the first one in the Cathedral of the Deep. It looks very much so because there's the podium there in front of the guy, and then there's the door on the right, which would lead to one of the shortcuts.
Yep.
I'm not too sure. This might be the Cathedral of the Deep. Maybe it's tied into the expansion. But we'll just wait and see. But that... I'm not sure. If that's a player, then apparently it looks kind of like one of the existing emotes, but a new suit of armor. Or it could be the NPC that's later on in this trailer.
Well, maybe it's not trying to denote an emote, but rather it's just it's trying to convey a certain tone. Like, what's the significance of what he's, I don't know what to call it, bowing down before, cowering before, submitting to?
I don't remember that altar too much in the cathedral, but well, that's something to take a look at as well. But I'm not too sure. Let's come back to this when the NPC we're talking about appears again.
Okay. And that's the Firekeeper, yeah?
Here, pause it for a second. I have a tiny theory that... Okay, a lot of people are saying that this looks like the Painted World entrance that was in Dark Souls 1. And I kind of have to agree. But at the same time, it doesn't look the exact same because it looks like there's a lot more white than there was in the original painting.
Mm-hmm.
As for the lady here, I'm not actually sure. This isn't our Firekeeper, but she may be a Firekeeper. And at first glance, I thought she was the Firekeeper Anastasia from the first game. But then I remembered that she lost both her legs and that... Well, she wasn't very mobile, and it's been a long time since Dark Souls 1 story.
Also, she
well, then
doesn't
again,
moving.
Well,
It's like she's made of stone.
yeah, the thing about that, though, is that her clothes are obviously clothing.
Okay.
It has... But yeah, plus the lighting and everything makes it look like it's not exactly stone. And the head... It just doesn't appear to be stone to me. Maybe it is, but with the way he talks about... If I remember the line correctly, it's something about showing fire or something. I can't remember the exact line. But the way that the dialogue here was presented and showing her at the same time leads me to believe that she's at least part of the story. I'm not too sure, but we'll have to wait and see. From Software is vague as hell with these things.
Okay, where next?
Then we have we've already been here talking about... Okay, pause here. I want to mention something just real quick about these guys. They have a very similar design to a Bloodborne enemy. It's the giant blood leeches that we see in Bloodborne in the DLC and in the Canehurst Castle. They look to have a similar design, but, well, they don't exactly look to be the exact same. I actually don't know what these things are. It looks like they have a little bit of wings and an abdomen. It looks like they're kind of bug-like.
They look like an absolute nightmare. That's what they look like.
Yeah, I don't look forward to fighting these guys.
They also kind of look like those little crawler dudes that spit the toxic gas that turns you into stone.
Yeah, the friggin' basilisks, I know what you're talking about.
Hate those things.
Yeah, those things are never fun in any of the Dark Souls games. Speaking of guys to fight...
Oh my gosh, this guy looks epic.
Yeah, go back a little bit to when he first appears. Okay, I think we can safely say that this is not a boss fight, because does not look like a boss arena and just you walking around, which is intimidating because this motherfucker is just walking around in a snowstorm waiting to beat your head in with that axe.
He's got stag horns on his helmet.
Like, holy hell. This is an enemy that's roaming around in the game, not one that's... I don't know, but this is just awesome.
And skadoosh. Some pretty epic moves he's got, too. Like, look at the AoE on this thing. One smash.
Yeah, I know.
Smacks.
Just
Boom.
one to stagger him out of the block, and then a second one to knock him into the air. That's just insane.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can't wait to see more of this guy. Okay, I'm going to make a little bit of an assumption. I think this will be an enemy that will be able to get his armor set and his weapon. At least I hope it is.
Do you think it'll be able to do that?
I feel like it'll be able to do it to an extent, but not as much as that.
What about that blade?
Actually, yeah, good pause on that one, because I wanted to talk about that. I'm not actually sure about that, because it's obvious he doesn't have a staff or a chime on him. So that is not a buff. That is something on the weapon itself. So I think what this sword is, and a lot of people have been talking about this, I think this is a sword whose weapon art is a self-buff on the weapon itself. Which, if so, is pretty damn cool.
Yeah, it looks pretty powerful, too.
And also, I wanted to point out this armor set he's wearing. I have not seen this armor set in the game, and I'd like to think that I have almost every armor set in the game currently.
Well, it makes sense for the trailer for the DLC. They'd be showing off new weapons and armor.
Yeah, exactly, which is the point I want to bring up, but not until later when we're seeing a little bit of other things, but we'll come back to that. But yeah, this sword I am looking forward to because it just looks awesome. And light boomerang. Yeah, go a little bit out. I want to talk about that.
I want to talk about how much I hate
Back to our-
skeletons in this game.
Well, maybe this is a way to fix that. I want to talk about this because this looks like an offensive miracle where you throw a disc and it just comes back to you. Everyone's calling it the light boomerang.
Nah, dude, it's it's Krillin's Destructo Disc.
Yeah, the Kienzon. Yeah, I was thinking that too. But yeah, I like that because honestly, clerics are kind of shit out of luck in terms of their damage. I mean, they have the cool lightning bolts and all that cool stuff, but those things are way too telegraphed. And while this is a little bit telegraphed, I can picture all the cool plays that can be made with the disc returning to you.
It's gonna be pretty good for PvP, I think, because so much of like, especially like pyromancy and just magic in general in PvP, it's your initial attack is so telegraphed that good PvPers get so good at dodging all of your magic that having something like this where you can throw it and then maybe move to melee combat, or throw that and then start throwing fireballs, something like that, where you have it. They have to keep track of not only the initial attack but the returning volley as well.
Yeah, what I want to know is does it go out and then return to where it was sent, or does it go out and then return to where you are? If it's returning to where it was sent, then I don't see it being used too much. But if it
looks like it's
if it
going
returns,
to where you are.
Okay, then if that's the case, then yeah, I can see it definitely being used.
See that?
Yeah, I saw that. It was curving after it came back after the second hit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, he sends it out. Stops. It comes back, hits the skeleton, and then it follows him. Okay, so I think it gravitates back toward you after you throw it. Yeah, I can definitely see it being used then, because what people can do is they'll throw it, they'll dodge the initial thing, and they probably won't think about it, at least at the beginning, thinking it'll come back, and you could charge in and distract them with melee combat while that thing's coming back and hitting them in the back of the face.
Especially if it can stagger them, that would be pretty cool.
Oh, that would be crazy. But yeah, moving forward a little bit, we have wolves.
We do have wolves.
I just want to talk about them for a second. Yeah, we have dogs in Dark Souls and in Bloodborne. I hate fighting them.
They're such a pain.
just don't know how these wolves... Yeah, they really are. I wonder how these wolves are going to be, especially since it looks like they fight in packs. That'll be fun.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I see 4 on the screen right now.
Mm-hmm. I see blood on the mouth of the one closest to the camera.
5. I see 5, actually.
Yep. 5 dogs.
I just counted the licks. Yep, all at once. That's gonna be fun. Maybe it's one of the boss fights, just a mob battle with a bunch of wolves.
Oh, God. Hope not.
Hey, by the way, this screen you just paused on, this is interesting because it looks like a pyromancy being used with a torch. I had to rewatch this particular segment over and over again to get this. But what it looks like is he's either blowing or breathing into the fire of the torch. And if you go forward a little bit, the fire branches out into like a fire whip. You see that?
Fire whip?
He's not... I mean, look at that.
Yeah, it's like he's
you
not
see what I'm talking about?
The torch anymore.
Yeah, he has the torch out. Like, I have replayed that scene so many times to see what the hell I was watching.
Oh no,
but yeah, he's still
the torch.
Yeah, he has the torch, but no pyromancy flame.
Hmm.
So I think either okay, a few things can be happening here. One is certain pyromancies can be used with like a torch, but at like I'm gonna say a reduced effectiveness, or we may be getting some sort of weapon that acts like a torch but can be used with certain abilities.
That'd be pretty epic. Do you think it'd be a unique torch or just
abilities I think
any torch?
I'm gonna say and hope that it's a weaponized torch.
Dude, I want to.
Because that would be pretty kick-ass.
I want to beat up some zombies with a torch, smack them.
And then breathe fire into their faces.
Mm-hmm. You know how much I love.
That'd be awesome. Oh yeah, but yeah, I think this is pretty interesting, and I can't wait to see what this goes into.
And there's this guy.
This is pretty interesting because we haven't really gotten ice spells. We've gotten like crystal spells, like the dragon breath. But this is interesting. This is pretty much what everyone's calling a blizzard spell. And I can see where they're getting it. I assume we're going to be getting this in our painted world. Well, that's the guy we were talking about. We're not done talking about the blizzard.
Nope.
Now, this is another scene I watched a few times, and it looks like he canceled it near the end of this segment. I want to know, though, if this can be a sustained spell where you hold it like the fire surge, pretty much the hand flamethrower.
Mm-hmm.
or if it's a set animation where it's only a certain amount of time.
This, based on the rate of the projectile of the spell, I would imagine it's a channeled spell.
Yeah, I assumed it's a sustained, which I hope it is, because that would make it very... I hope this is a good spell, because it looks awesome.
Yeah, I'm sure it's
what I wanted to,
functional.
What I wanted it to be is... I can never remember the name of this, but that giant, like, Death Star laser spell that you can get. You know what I'm talking about?
Laser spell. What
It's a giant blue beam.
I don't think I've gotten that, man.
Okay, well, I'll have to show you it sometime in the game. But basically, it's pretty... Everyone's calling it a Death Star laser spell, pretty much. But, it's one continuous beam. I kind of hope it's like that, but it can sustain it, as long as you have mana.
Okay. Anything else on the scene?
Other than I hope that these spells we've seen aren't the only ones we're getting and we're getting more. No, not really.
Let's spend 12 minutes talking about this chandelier up here in the corner.
Yep, sounds good.
Sight?
I'm sure they put that there for a reason.
Now,
anyway,
this is the earlier.
Yeah, and like I said, the armor set is the exact same from that armor set we saw on the other person. So I think this guy and that individual we saw earlier is one and the same.
It makes sense. It's a similar position too.
Yeah, but here obviously is a cutscene. Mm-hmm. So this must be an NPC character we're going to be getting in the expansion. Now, the thing in his hand, they make it a point that this is important. I think this is a piece of like cinder or a bundle of ash or something of the sort.
That almost
and
like
of course,
of tree bark. Not saying it is. I'm just saying it looks like it.
Yeah, I get that, but like I said, like here's the thing in Dark Souls 3: cinders and ash and fire and all that's important in this game. So that's why I think this is a piece of cinder or ashes.
And who's he giving
Plus,
it to?
It looks like our player, because that's the knight armor set that the player can start with. If you'll pause it before we go forward a bit. But yeah, I really want to know what this is about, and the dialogue states that it's something like the ashes of Karn, or it's either ashes of Karn or the ashes have come. I keep watching the scene, and I still can't tell the difference, and they don't have subtitles on this video yet. So hopefully, I really hope that they put subtitles on here, or someone's able to figure it out, because I for some reason can't tell the difference between the two.
Okay.
If it's the ashes have come, then yeah, these are important ashes. If it's the ashes of Karn, then we got another character apparently that's important.
Like another Lord of Cinder?
I'm not 100% sure on that one, but that would be very interesting.
Is there any room for that in the lore?
Yes, there is, because the Lord of Cinder... A Lord of Cinder is one who has successfully linked the fire. So
our character at the end of the story.
Our character at the end of the story, if we choose to link the fire, our first character in Dark Souls 1, if they choose to link the fire, the original one, Lord of Cinder, Gwyn, Yorm, Abyss Watchers, Aldridge, anyone who has successfully linked the fire is a Lord of Cinder. And if you look at the lore, there's been quite a few cycles, meaning there could be more Lords of Cinder we could fight.
Could it be that our character has become one of the bosses?
Are you talking about from an earlier game, or are you talking about this game?
From Dark Souls 3, like, not our actual character, but like, a character, like a knight or a warrior.
I mean, it could be possible. You never know.
Okay.
Be interesting. But if you move forward, I'm about to debunk a lot of people on this bit. Let the next bit of gameplay where it shows the few bosses play. There's Osiris, Nameless King, the Twin Princes, and Aldridge. Now, if you go back a bit, everyone's saying, oh, it looks like they added more combos and everything to these characters. No, they did not add new attack animations for the current bosses. I have played against these bosses countless times, and I can say for a fact that all these moves they're showing have in fact been used in the game. If you think Aldrich's light arrow barrage is new, something's wrong with you.
It still haunts my dreams to this day.
I want to point out each of the bosses real fast. See, light arrows. That's been in the game. Okay, Osiris. The mist is extremely dense, meaning he's done the animation for a while. After the animation is done, he's free to do other attacks, which is what he's doing there. The Nameless King. His slash, and then bolt into the ground. That is a move he's done before. That's not new. The Twin Princes. Slash, teleport, then slam. That's one he does before. Light arrows, no need to be said. That is already a thing. But I do have a theory. So, stick on those guys for just a moment.
On the bosses?
Actually, you know what? I'm going to save that for after we go through all this, because I have a long theory on that one. So let's go ahead with the video a bit more, and then I'll come back to it. Here we have Velka again, and her boss room burning to the ground.
Spoiler.
I think she's going to be an early boss. There's no way they're going to spoil the last boss of the DLC. But yeah, if you notice in this scene with the battle, those side shells are not in there. So I think it may have been part of the opening cutscene for the battle. Which would be interesting. That'd be cool.
Certainly fits with the theme of her dumping fire all over the place.
Yeah, seriously. This boss is going to be fun.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I
like
only say
any
that
boss.
with a hint of sarcasm.
Yeah, as we're watching the poor character getting lava dumped on them.
Yeah, that's a good time.
Yep, fun time. But yeah, I look forward to just seeing the bosses in general of this expansion, because the bosses in Dark Souls are always great, except for a few. Like, the freaking deacons are just kind of pitiful. And that ancient wyvern, come on.
The deacons were not pitiful. I mean, it's not super dense in terms of mechanics or grandeur, but it's a fun fight because of its challenge, I think.
I get that, and the first few times you fight it and you're not 100% sure what's going on, it's understandable, but once you know what's going on, it's a little bit pitiful.
Yeah. Especially with pyromancy, man.
Yeah, you can just kind of burn them all. If you have a big-ass weapon, like an Ultra Greatsword, you can just mow through them, no problem. Anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about. Now, before we continue theorizing, I want to go on to my theory with these 4 bosses from the vanilla game that we've seen. Now, the 4 bosses shown are Osiris the Consumed King, the Nameless King, the Twin Princes, and... why am I drawing a blank? Yeah, Aldrich.
Aldrich.
Now, a lot of people don't know this, but these 4 characters are all connected.
Are they?
Yep, I'll make her explain. They're all connected through Guinevere, I think you all should remember her from Dark Souls 1, where there's the endless, amazing chest ahead notes. I think you should all remember that, after Ornstein and Smo. Now, they're all connected to her. Allow me to explain. It is very heavily implied in the game that Guinevere is the Queen of Lothric, which would make her the wife of Osiris.
Of that
thing? Yep,
Good
of that
God.
thing before he turned into that thing.
Okay.
She would be the sister of the Nameless King, who is the forsaken son of Lord Gwyn, and sister to Gwendolyn, who later got eaten by Aldrich, and would be the mother of the Twin Princes.
Can you imagine giving birth to this guy? Not him. Him.
I have no idea what the fuck happened to him in the lore. That's all we know is that his sword killed a demon prince, and that's why it's on fire, and that he was cursed and he can't speak or walk anymore.
And he's also like 3 stories tall.
Yeah, I'm not too sure on that one what the lore on that one goes into. They never fully explain that bit. I'm gonna assume that he just had a massive growth spurt later on in his life. That's all I'm gonna assume.
He eats his broccoli.
Yep.
Okay, so you mentioned a
Anyway, but yeah, so the theory is all these 4 bosses aren't in here at random. I would say that it's to show off new weapons or armor, But look carefully at the characters in each of these scenes. They're all in basic armor and weapons from the base game. There's nothing new from them. See? General Knight armor, Knight shield, Knight sword. Knight armor, shield, sword.
Can't see anything in the
You can't see anything except for light arrows punching him. And then against Osiris, you just see the general cleric set. There is nothing new equipment-wise with these characters. And as I said before, there's no new attack animations. So why did they show these 4 bosses? My theory is that since they're all connected through Guinevere, there might be a storyline with her in it in this expansion.
The internet's not ready.
The internet is not ready because everyone thinks that there's just new animations. I don't get why they think that, but I've already gone about that. Anyway, that's the theory that I think Guinevere, or at least some storyline that heavily implies it, is here. Also, if you want to go back, that lady that you thought was Priscilla, the one that was sitting in the chair was covered with the hood. I thought of this while we were talking about. Her. Yeah, her. She might. Okay, this is heavily just random theory that I just thought of. It has not much ground, but this could be related. She could be related or something to Guinevere, or she could be Guinevere.
She's about 12 cup sizes too small.
Well, fun fact, that Guinevere from Dark Souls 1 was just an illusion.
True.
Guinevere had already left Anor Londo after the god's hold was failing. The only god that was still there was Gwendolyn.
Who I have yet to fight, by the way.
Yeah, you still need to do that. That fight's pretty crazy. Just a one long-ass hallway while Gwendolyn's just firing off arrows at you.
Okay, so she's
yeah,
Guinevere, who's connected to all the other bosses.
Yep, to those 4 bosses they showed. That's the theory. That's the only thing I can really think of for why they showed those 4 in particular, with no new equipment or anything in there. Yeah, sorry, talking a lot. But yeah, that's my whole theory. These bosses are connected to each other through Guinevere, and that's the reason why I think they showed these 4.
Okay. So is there anything else you can eke out of this trailer?
Other than it's going to be awesome as hell, and that I cannot wait for it.
Me too, man. I mean, you told me a lot about the Dark Souls 1 DLC and the Bloodborne DLC, and I just never got around to getting them. But this is one I definitely think I'm going to buy.
Yeah. I'm a little bit shocked that it's not a Londor-themed DLC, considering how heavily lore-based Londor is in Dark Souls 3's main story. But we still have another expansion that we're going to be getting from Dark Souls 3, so we might be getting that. But anyway, this just looks bloody awesome.
Can't wait to play it, man. So, there you have it. That's the trailer. We'll put a link to the original video in the description of this video. Yeah. Anything else you want to say?
Not really. Can't really think of anything.
Alright. Well, we'll catch you on the next one, guys.